Ladies and gentlemen, welcome from Frankfurt am Main in the center of Germany. Am Main stands for at Main. Main is the river which flows through Frankfurt. Today we'll be testing the ZEISS Batis 40mm f2 CF. CF stands for close focus, so it's a macro lens. This video was sponsored by Objektivvermietung.de. If you're ever in Frankfurt or if you're ever in Germany and you miss the lens at home, please make sure to check out their website. There you can rent this lens for a really cheap price, either daily or for an entire week. So thanks for watching, and if you do have any further questions, please make sure to leave a comment below. You will find tons of sample images also in RAW in the video description below. Also some video files to convince yourself at home with the performance of this lens. Please make sure to subscribe if you like this content, and I would appreciate every thumb up. Thank you very much and enjoy now the upcoming review. After these heartwarming words, let's start comparing these two lenses. By the way, there's already a video about the Sony 55mm 1.8 on my channel, so be sure to check this out as well. Basically, there are two different lenses in front of us. The 40mm is a very nice macro lens and the 55mm a very nice portrait lens. Nevertheless, one or the other might be faced with the decision to choose one or the other. So in this video we take a close look at the strengths and weaknesses of both lenses. The recommended price for the 40mm is $1,300 and for the 55mm $1,100. However, you can get both lenses for a much lower price at your local camera shop. The 55mm comes with an aperture of 1.8, weighs 280 grams and is a bit more compact than the 40mm, which comes with an aperture of 2 and weighs 360 grams. The ZEISS 40mm is a bit bigger than the 55mm. We tested both lenses on the Sony a7 III. Many pictures and videos can be downloaded to check the performance at home. The link is in the video description below. The 40mm comes with a protection against dust and splash and has a small display on top. That's a cool feature if you make use of manual focusing. On the front you can adjust the distances. There's no switch to change from manual focusing to autofocusing on either lens. I hope you enjoy the sample files if you're looking for chromatic aberrations. If you do find some and find the whole thing to be a problem, Adobe Lightroom is recommended to solve it. You have dark edges on both lenses. Seriously, it's not too bad. The whole thing gives your pictures that certain portrait look. The focus is then directed to the essential. My recommendation also here, Adobe Lightroom for those who don't like it. The automatic correction solved the problem with just one mouse click. Last but not least, we have a look at the lens flaring. The whole thing depends on the angle, of course. Sometimes there's a lens flare in the corners, sometimes in the middle. Of course, the whole thing looks really cool when the sun goes down in the background, but it can disturb some people while filming. Personally, I think that the 55mm performed a bit better than the 40mm. See for yourself and write a comment under this video which lens performed better in your opinion. If we compare the autofocus with each other, we can already see that the 55mm reacts a bit faster than the Batis 40mm. That doesn't mean that the autofocus is slow, but just a bit faster with the 55mm. Both were reliable though. By this I mean that no matter Where I point both lenses, the focus was right. Next, we have a look at the sharpness. Today, the Alte Oper in Frankfurt is available to us as a model. The spot was set on the roof and all photos were taken with the Sony a7 III. You will notice that Sony and ZEISS lenses have one thing in common, and that's the sharpness. At open apertures it gets a little spongy towards the corners, but the focus point is always sharp. I recommend to you to download these photos to compare them at home, also available in RAW. Next topic we need to speak about is macro, and this brings us to the strengths of the 40mm CF. Because with the 40mm you can focus down to 24 centimeters or even 0.78 feet to your subject. Just use the switch on the front. In comparison, the 55mm only focuses twice the distance, namely 0.5 meters or 1.5 feet. Granted, one thing is macro lens and the other is a portrait lens, but it should be mentioned when you're faced with the choice between one or the other. That's why the 40mm allows you to focus more precisely on details than the 55mm. Maybe this is very interesting for product photography or to enjoy some moments in nature. Have you ever made a trip with only one lens in your camera bag? If not, you should definitely do that sometime. Last year I was on Kos in Greece for you and I only had the ZEISS Batis 18mm with me, which I did a review of course, and that's where the real creativity comes out. So we went to Frankfurt for you, tested both lenses on the street and found both of them very cool for street photography. Do you like portraits? Then you have two good lenses in front of you. We'll talk about the bokeh in a moment, but the main difference are well known. One has a longer focal length and is a bit more light intensive, here in the sign of the 55mm, while the 40mm has a third stop less but has a better close-up limit. Cool portraits are guaranteed in any case, even if I find the picture angle of 43 degrees in the diagonal at the 55mm a bit more suitable to focus on your portraits. As we approach the end of this comparison, we will have a look at the low light capabilities. This depends mainly on your camera sensor, but also on the available light coming through your lens. The 55mm is of course a third stop faster, but has a smaller angle of view. This means that you have to go back a bit further to get the same on the sensor as with the 40mm. The focus was very precise in the dark with both lenses. We tested the whole thing at the Opernplatz in Frankfurt. In such a dynamic time, there's also a dynamic movement of celebrating people. Now there's a little quiz. I will show you the clips and you can guess with which lens the clips were taken. The solution comes afterwards. This much I can say in advance, the bokeh is fantastic with both lenses. Let's summarize. By now you know the pros and cons of both lenses. The 40mm is a bit more expensive, had a third stop less, but has also good macro characteristics. The 55mm is a bit cheaper, a bit more light intense, and is more portrait lens. The 40mm can be borrowed and tested at objektivvermietung.de. If you have decided, you can also buy the lenses in installments if you don't have the necessary money at the moment. Just follow the link in the video description. But what do you think about these two lenses? I am very curious about your opinion and personal experience. Under this video there's a lot of space for your comments. Don't forget to subscribe and see you next time. All the best from the heart of Germany. Bye bye.